All right, so this Excel file I've created as an example to demonstrate to you how the data that you're collecting through the survey will feed into further analysis. So this is an example of credit card data that you have seen before, and I think it's available in the project folder. So in this particular data, it is a study about designing, new schemes for credit cards. So there are 3 attribute levels, and so for those 3 attribute levels for each of those, so there are 3 attributes with 3 levels each. So one is brand, one is interest rate, one is credit limit. So these are, for example, for brands, Visa, MasterCard, and Amex are considered. Similarly, different interest rates and different credit limits. So like how you have coded for your project, you have come up with a conjoint design, the 12 different combinations. So same way, these are the different combinations of the brand, interest rate, and credit limits, which are represented here. And if you remember that you had coded these combinations into your survey by asking the consumers that which of these combinations do you most prefer, rank them on a scale of 1 to 7 and so on, right? So now these are some of the combinations, and the full set of combinations is shown over here. So there are 9 combinations of credit card based on their brand, interest rate, and credit limits that was shown to the consumers. And for the purpose of your analysis, what you have to do is you have to convert these into dummy variable, right? So this is the dummy for Visa, this is the dummy for MasterCard, but remember that there are 3 brands. And so when we are converting them to dummy variables, we use n-1. That is, we leave out one of the brands, right? That was a rule of thumb that we had looked at in one of our earlier analysis lectures on regression analysis. So because there are 3 brands, we are going to code 2 brands, so Visa and MasterCard. So for the first combination, the brand is number 1, that is Visa. So it takes a value of 1, MasterCard takes a value of 0. Similarly, for interest rates, there are 3 levels. So we will code 2 levels as dummies. So in this case, we have interest rate as number 1, that is 15%. So D15% is coded as 1, and the second dummy is coded as 0. And the same way for credit limit. So this is an exercise that you will have to do to prepare your X variable matrix. So in regression, if you remember, we have a dependent variable and we have independent variables. So the dependent variable is called as Y variable, and the independent variable matrix of data is called as X matrix. So your X matrix consists of all the dummy combinations for the 9 different options that were shown to the consumer to rank. Now, if you remember, each consumer was asked to give a ranking or a preference, and that is known as what we call as the utility. So that you will obtain from your survey data. This is the part. So you showed them these combinations, and the consumers gave a preference ranking for each of the 9 combinations. So that is your dependent variable, or the Y variable as we call it. So now what we will do is, let's say we have the data for 10 respondents for each of these 9 combinations. So what we have to do is, essentially, when you get the survey data, we have to prepare the X matrix and the Y matrix as the first step. So let's see how to do that. So here is your survey data. Let me just insert, and this is your survey data on the respondents, their preference rankings or preference ratings for each of these options, 1 to 9. This is your X matrix that you just saw, and you have dummy coded on the previous page, right? Now, the very first thing you have to do is you have arranged this X matrix. Now you have to arrange your data in a way that when you do the regression, you can give the size of this X matrix, and you can also specify your Y matrix. And also remember that these are options. So let me bring it here. So these are options. So this is for option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? So what we are going to do is we are going to copy this, and we are going to transpose this particular data here next to the X matrix to get our Y variables, all of them together. So, okay, I'm going to copy this and I will paste it here. Now I'm going to use this option called transpose because it is going to, if you notice that our X matrix, the respondents are given in the first row, but we want to put them in, they are given in the first column. We want to put them in the subsequent columns as one row. So we are going to use the option of transpose. And now you will see that all the options have come together, and all of the respondents are listed over here. Respondent 1, 2, 3, and so on up to 10. And these are options. So we have respondent 1's rating for option 1 to 9, respondent 2's rating for option 1 to 9, and so on. So this is the way we have to arrange our data. So I'm going to highlight this as yellow so that we do not confuse the respondent number as their preference ranking. Now, having done this, so let's call this as Y matrix because we have data on 10 consumers. So you're going to arrange this data for your 50 consumers or 60 consumers that you have collected. Or better still, what I would like you to do is, because you're 5 to 6 members in each group, so each of you should take 10 consumers and do the regressions, because that will also prepare you with this technique in case you are you have to use it again. So so now, having arranged your X matrix and your Y matrix, what we are going to do, the next step is we will do a regression. So the other thing, let me insert. So we do regression analysis. Now, what we have to do is for regression analysis, when we have to collect the part words, right? So let's first do regression analysis. In the regression, our dependent variable is this Y variable. That is for each of the 10 consumers. So I'm going to do, because my database has 10 respondents, I will do 10 regressions. And the X matrix remains the same for each of those 10 respondents. In your case, for each of the 50 or 60 respondents data that you have collected. So this will remain the same, only the Y variable is going to change. So that is the important thing to remember here. So let's proceed with regression. And so we go to data analysis. We come to regression, click on OK. Now, in input Y range, so it's important to remember where is your Y. So this is your Y matrix. So we'll do the regression for the first consumer here. So I'm going to select the respondent name and the preference ratings. I'm going to highlight, because I'm selecting the label for the respondent, I'm going to click on this checkbox called labels. Now I have to specify the X matrix. So I'm going to highlight this data. And because there are labels in the first row, so Excel is going to recognize. Now notice that here I've only highlighted the matrix with the dummy variables and their labels, not these options. So you don't have to include these in your X matrix. This is just for illustration purpose. And then output range. So output range can be, let's just say here. And this also does not change. You can keep repeatedly. Once you have done this regression, then you just need to change the Y variable. So I'll just show you how. So let's click on OK, and we get the output for the first respondent. In this output, what is important is that these are the part words. So these are what we have to collect for cluster analysis for each of the consumers. Intercept is not important for cluster analysis, so don't worry too much about it. So how do we collect this data and paste this? So we are going to, again, take these options. Let's put that so that we know. And we take these column names of the X matrix because we have recovered the consumer's part words for this X matrix, right? How much importance they give to each of these options. So D visa, so make sure that your labeling is correct. D visa, D master, they should be in the same order and same way for all of these. So what you do is you simply copy them and you paste them here. So again, you use the function because it's vertically and now you have to paste them horizontally. So use the transpose function. So now we come to the second customer. Okay, so now for the second customer, I'm going to simply go to data analysis, regression. Okay, now all the options will come. I'm not changing anything except for the Y variable because my Y variable is here, including the label. And I don't change the output range also, and click on OK. So Excel is going to give me a message that do you want to override the existing data? So you click on OK. It is OK to override. And now I have for my second respondent the options. So let me just do it for 4 respondents very quickly, and then I will show you the entire matrix. So we go to regression for respondent 3 and click on OK, overwrite the data, and take this, transpose it. And finally, for the last respondent, for 4th respondent, I'm going to take this data and click on OK, override. Okay, so that way you can continue for all the remaining customers and you will get this data matrix. So I'm going to show you the entire, let me just copy these 4 and let me go to the next sheet where I'm going to show you. I will paste them here and let's see the entire matrix for all the 10 customers. So this is your matrix of part words, and you are going to, so you have the respondent number here as the in the column, and you have these, so in over here, it's not options, it is respondent number. So for all the 50 or 60 respondents, you will collect your part words. And so I have for 10, you will have for 50 consumers. And you are going to feed this data matrix into Tableau and you will do cluster analysis. Okay. Now, once you have done cluster analysis in Tableau, it is going to assign cluster number. So for example, customer 1 belongs to cluster 2, cluster 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then you can use these respondents, their cluster numbers, to identify how many clusters you've come up with and what are the differences between the different clusters. So to analyze what are the differences between the clusters, you can look at the differences in their age, in their income, in their marital status, how responsive they are to promotions, and other variables that you have collected. Alternatively, you could also put age, income into this matrix. Any other behavioral information, for example, how frequently they buy products on promotions, what is their price sensitivity, things like that. So if you have more behavioral information based on the surveys that you have, based on the data that you have collected from your specific survey, you can either throw it, put it in this matrix adjacent to the part words and put it for cluster analysis, or you could use just the part words for cluster analysis and then look at the differences between the clusters based on all the other information like age, income, etc. that you have. Now, one important point is that when you are collecting the data from the survey, you have collected information on age, gender, income, number of family members. You have to clean this data. You cannot just use this data by itself, unless you are just using it to describe the differences between the consumers, right, between the clusters. But if you're using this data to input it in cluster analysis, then you have to modify. So for example, age. So how do you change? Now, this is an interval, right? 18 to 24. So you change that to midpoint. So you add 18 plus 24 divided by 2. So you take the midpoint of that interval, same way. So I'll just show you for a few selected points. And then you can just, once you've understood the concept, you'll be able to do it. So again, the range 25 plus 34 divided by 2. So the midpoint of this age interval is 29.5. So the whole idea is to convert these labels into numerical data that can be used for analysis. Gender. So for example, you can code female as 1 and male as 0, or male as 1 and female as 0. That totally depends on you. So let's say we code females as 1. So wherever you see a female, it takes a value of 1. Otherwise, it takes a value of 0. But you can use an if formula. So if this cell equals female, you can check whether this is case sensitive or not. We'll come to know here as well. So it is, I think, case sensitive. So remember, just remember to use the label as it is appearing in the column. So you are saying in the if formula that if this is female, then you assign a value of 1. Otherwise, you assign a value of 0. And you can drag this formula all the way down and you will get the values. This is numbers, so it remains the same. But notice that, so household, let me name this column as household size. Now you can copy the entire column here, but notice that this is 6 plus. So where you have the number of members exceeding 6, as in this data, you can cap them at 6, okay? So whether the household has 8, there will be very fewer households like that, which will have like 8 to 10 children or something like that. You can look at the frequency of the data and you can cap them at a certain value. And same thing for like household income. So let me create a column here for income. Now for, where you have these ranges like 10,000 to 19,999, you can take the mid-range as you had done for 18 to 24 age group, right? These are clearly defined interval ranges. Where you have more than 150,000, you can take the upper limit and cap it at 150,000, okay? And where you have less than 10,000, you can, let me highlight them in blue. So where you have less than 10,000, you can put it as one number, 10,000. Okay, so usually when we are doing regression analysis and we have, a range of values, like you will see 21, 29, 30, 0, 1, 1, 1, 3, 4, 4, and suddenly you have another column where you have like 150,000, 200,000. So in that case, we usually scale such variables if we are including them in the regression analysis. So what does scaling means? That it means that you take this number and just divide it by, say, 10,000 to reduce the size. So that it doesn't make any change to your inferences. You have just scaled them to reduce their size and to be able to get correct estimates. Otherwise, your estimates will be very large for the beta for income. Okay, now you have marital status. So here I can create a dummy, say married. So I'm giving very simple, criterias, but you can make them even more complicated. So let's say we have just just one dummy for married or not married. So let's say if this is equal to, okay, let me just copy the label. Equal to, if this cell is equal to married, then we put a 1, else we put a 0. So whether, so it has not picked up. So it's not picking up such a big label. Or let me try something else to see if it works. Or else you could just, because you have 60 consumers, you could just manually do it. And what we do is, no, it's not. Okay. It has merged the cells. Let me try another way. Yeah. Okay, so the reason is I think there are 2 merged cells, which is why it is giving trouble. So now let's see if it works with F2. So these are the challenges that you come across when you're working with data. So now it's worked. So because these 2 cells were combined together, they were merged to create this variable, so it was not taking the formula. So what I did was I created an empty column, pasted these values over there. So now it is going to work. So for me, there are just, it's a very simple categorization of married or not married, and I've created a dummy. So if you find these kind of problems that you're struggling with, as for example, here the formula did not work, you can contact me or Keepika, whoever your tutor is. But even if you're not in my tutorial, feel free to contact me and we can help you out with these, minor hiccups that can give trouble. But don't waste your time solving it for hours and hours. We have that experience to let you know what is going wrong. So these are the important things that you need to remember when you're working with the data. And then once you have the data in this cleaned up form, then it becomes very easy to look at the mean, median, mode, and averages, whatever you want to do. It's easier to visualize. If you're going to put this data in Tableau, then you can visualize the data using the bar charts, different types of charts that we had looked at. And you could also, do other kinds of visualization with the part words or the utility rankings by creating perceptual maps and positioning maps. So these are the important points that I want to tell you regarding your data analysis for your final project. So I'm going to stop the recording here.